Hello and welcome to the video tutorial for Shelley Cashman's series Microsoft Excel 2010. So as you can see, we have Microsoft Excel 2010 open at the moment, and as soon as you open it, you'll notice that you have a workbook. So a workbook is a set of spreadsheets. If you look down at the bottom, you'll see sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and these are all part of your workbook that you'll be working in. So the workbook is just basically a name for an Excel document that holds a number of different spreadsheets. So when you first open Excel, it will give you a new workbook automatically, but should you desire to start a new one, again, you can go to File and click New, Blank Workbook, and then click Create. And that will give you basically the same thing that you saw when you first opened it. So we're going to be working with Chapter 1 today on creating a worksheet and embedded chart. So we're going to just forget about the embedded chart part for the moment and focus on working within the worksheet and how to navigate that. So if we look at page EX7 in chapter 1, we can start with selecting a cell and entering text. So in order to select a cell, you can simply use your mouse or trackpad if you're using a laptop, but I do suggest that you still use a mouse because it will be much easier to select things. So in order to select a cell, you simply click on the cell that you want to select, as you can see. So a cell is basically one of these little blocks that is made up of two coordinates, like a coordinate system, kind of like Battleship. So you have here we have A1 selected. So in the A column, row 1, column A, row 1, column A, row 2. You'll also notice once you select a cell, it will display the name of it right up at the top there. Another way to select cells is using the arrow keys on your keyboard. If I hit the arrow to the right, I can navigate the worksheet as so and select the cells that way. You can also use your mouse to select a few different cells by dragging the mouse. So if you left click, hold down the left mouse button and drag, you'll be able to select a range of cells. But we'll get into that a bit later. For now, we just need to select one cell at a time. Okay, moving on, we're going to be entering text into our worksheet. So text is any letter, any alphabet that is not a number, rather. So A to Z, A to Z, and symbols such as hyphens and spaces. So you'll notice the use of certain symbols might actually end up being code in Excel. So for the sake of text, we'll say they're the alphabet, A to Z, hyphens, and even spaces. So that means if you're entering a phone number, like 626 hyphen 777, that might actually be considered text rather than a number. And we'll get into numbers a bit later, but for now we'll start with entering text. So if we look at page EX8, we can start our exercises by entering some text. So on page EX8, number 2, it says type Save Sable River Foundation. So we're going to do that in cell A1. So if we use our mouse, if it's not already selected, click on A1 and we can start typing immediately. Save Sable River Foundation. Okay, so at this point, there are a few different ways that we can save this text in the cell. Currently, as the cursor is flashing, it's still in edit mode. So one way that you can cause this text to remain is by clicking this check mark here at the top, enter. So if we click that, now the text is saved in that cell. So if we click another cell, we'll see that there's no mention of the text we typed here in A1, which will show up in the formula bar. Okay. Now if you'll notice that the text is also spilling over into columns B and C. If we were to click B1, we are unable to see or edit the text there because we have entered it into A1, and it's just starting to run over to the other columns, but don't worry about that for now. So another way we can save the text, so let's first edit the text. So in order to edit text, you can either click once on the cell that you want to edit, and you can start editing up in the formula bar, foundation, or you can also double click on the cell, which will give you the cursor again so you can edit right down in the cell. Or another way is clicking, highlighting the cell, and pressing F2, which will allow you to bring up the cursor again and edit whatever you like in that box. Okay, so again, to save it, we can either click the enter check mark or simply press the enter key on your keyboard, which I find to be the most intuitive and simple way to enter and save the text. Okay, there is one more way, which I'll show you in a moment, but let's move on over to number 4 on page EX9, and we're going to enter another subtitle for our worksheet. It says enter lifetime fundraising summary. So lifetime fundraising summary. Okay, so again, we can either hit enter on the keyboard, which I find to be the best way in this situation, click the check mark, or simply just clicking another cell other than the one you're editing will cause that text to be saved in the box you're editing. Alright, so moving on to page EX10. Now that we have our title of our worksheet, we're going to be creating some column titles. So again, the columns are labeled with alphabets A, B, C, D, etc. And the rows are numbered 1, 2, 3. So we're going to enter a few different column names based on the textbook here. So the first one is going to be in B3, Allentown. Now, at this point, we're going to be moving to the right across our spreadsheet. So instead of having to click each cell as we go along, I can simply use the right arrow key to move to the next cell, which will save the text from the previous one and select the following cell that I want to do. So I'm going to enter a few more names as seen on page EX11. We have chamber, right arrow, chamber city. So I'm going to go back, left arrow. I'm going to edit it up here in the formula bar this time, city. And since I'm editing up in the formula bar, I'm not going to be able to use the right arrow key this time. So I'm going to have to hit enter on the keyboard, and that will bring my highlighted cursor back and I can navigate. But if I'm editing within the spreadsheet area down here, I can still use the arrows to navigate. Okay, next one is Pattonsville, right arrow, Sable Village, right right arrow, Strongville, right arrow, Town of Cary, right arrow, and total. So we will be using some sort of total as we move on. Okay, now we're going to be working on entering row titles as seen on page EX12. So again, the rows are here numbered here, and we're going to start with cell A4. So I can use my mouse, click on A4, and enter as mentioned in the textbook, corporate. Now, since we're moving down the A column, I can use the down arrow key, or simply pressing enter, which will be easiest, will move the highlighting box down to the next row. So let's keep entering. Direct mail, enter. Fun runs, enter. Government, enter. Phone thon, enter, and another total. Okay, so now we can see we have our spreadsheet set up here. You'll notice some of these row titles and column titles are not fitting very well in the columns. That won't cause a problem, and we can fix that later. We'll be able to adjust the spacing as needed, but just be aware that even though the text looks like it's spilling over to the next column, it's not. So I'm going to see here on A6 is actually where I have fawn runs instead of fun runs. I'll fix that. And B6 has nothing. So these two texts will not interfere. The content of these two boxes will not interfere, even though it looks like they're spilling over. So here I have a spelling error. This time I'm going to edit it by double clicking, so I can remove the U and press enter again. Fun runs, and we're ready to move on. So that